So the adventure crew was down by the pond. You know, the one they go swimming in every summer. And Dad and Liam and Caden was sitting on the old stump right at the edge of the pond. All of them was gazing out across the pond at the mountains in the distance. And a cool breeze blew in off the water. Caden says, "Ooh." And he reached down and zipped his jacket up just a little tighter. Liam looks up at Dad and says, "Summer's over, huh, Dad?" The dad looks down at the boys and says, "Yeah, summer's over. It's late fall now. The leaves are almost gone." When Caden looks up and sees a leaf falling, and they watched it drift down, dancing in the wind. A rusty brown leaf drifting toward the water. As it hit gently, ripples bounced across the top of the pond. And that made Liam and Caden smile a little bit. Caden looks back up at Dad and says, "Was that the last leaf, Dad?" The dad says, "I don't know. Maybe we should go on an adventure. An adventure to find the last leaf of the season." Liam and Caden smiled big, turned around. The dad says, "All right, adventure crew, are we all here?" And one by one, they perked up. The little rabbit, the little chipmunk, the little turtle, and the little bird. The tough, brave little field mouse. The bushy-tailed little gray squirrel. And the best friend ball. Bear and Bronco Bear. All standing, waiting for Dad to say what the adventure was going to be. And the dad says, "All right, crew. Let's take a walk through the enchanted forest on a search for the last leaf of the season." And the tough, brave little field mouse says, "Hey, Liam, hey, Caden, I heard if you can find the last leaf of the season, you get to make a wish, and it will come true." And Caden says, "Are you sure about that?" And Liam says, "I've heard of it. The woodland fairies fly throughout the forest as the leaves turn in the fall, reaching into their pockets and sprinkling magic woodland fairy dust all over the leaves in the forest. And the last leaf contains a big wish." Well, everybody got excited, and another cold breeze blew in, and everybody buttoned up their jackets and zipped up their jackets, and Dad says, "Let's go." So off through the big field and across the river, deep into the trail of the enchanted forest. Everybody was on the lookout, looking left and right and up and down. There wasn't a leaf left on the trees anywhere. But what they could hear as they walked was the leaves crunching. Step by step, the leaves crumpled beneath their feet. Liam and Caden loved that sound. And the little turtle, he did too. But the leaves were so deep they couldn't even see him. And he says, guys, wait up. And Caden says, come on, little turtle, and puts him up on his shoulders. And the tough, brave little field mouse ran ahead, dancing and kicking in the leaves. Down the trail they went, deeper and deeper into the enchanted forest. When they came to the fork in the trail. And if you remember, the trail to the left goes to the adventure train station, where they had had so many adventures over the summer. They went to visit the old hobbit by the sea. They went to Art World. So many adventures ran through their mind as they sat and contemplated which way to go. The dad says, how about we go to the right? Yeah, the right. And Liam and Caden smiled real big because they knew the trail to the right led them to the very end of the enchanted forest, where the mountains began. And right at the foothills of the mountains was the 5 cabins that they had found earlier in the summer. And they always stayed in the cabin number 5, the one to the farthest right, because it had the big fireplace, as big as cracker barrels. And that gave them plenty of room to all sit around in front of it. Well, they couldn't wait to get there. And they're looking up left and right and left, walking on towards the cabins. When all of a sudden, the tough, brave little field mouse jumps up on a stump and says, I found it. And Liam and Caden ran as fast as they could, and the rest of the adventure crew tried to keep up. And they gathered around. Tough, brave little field mouse, Where do you see the last leaf of the season? With a big old grin, he points, and sure enough, in a big oak tree, at the very, very top, was a single leaf blowing in the breeze. A gust of wind broke the leaf free, and it drifted down to the ground, dancing in the wind. And they chased after it because you had to catch it before it hit the ground in order to get your wish. They followed it off into the woods, and just before the leaf hit the ground, Liam dives toward the leaf, right into his hands. He says, I got it. A gust of wind blew it up, and Caden jumps up and says, I'll help you, brother. And Liam and Caden together dive and grab this rusty brown leaf. Sure enough, they had called it. Well, because it was made with the enchanted fairy dust, it began to glow. When the glowing stopped, the tough, brave little field mouse says, make a wish. The little rabbit says, yeah, make a wish. And Liam and Caden looked at each other. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? And brother says, I'm thinking what you're thinking. I wish it would snow. When all of a sudden, out of the sky, a beautiful snowflake drifted toward the ground. The first snowflake of the season. They grinned and giggled and danced and jumped in the leaves. And it was followed by another and another, until it was fully snowing The tough, brave little field mouse says, "Oh, it's getting colder," and he buttons the last button on his little jacket. And the dad says, "We better hurry and get to the cabins. We don't want to get caught in the snow." So as they rushed down the trail, the snow got heavier and heavier. Soon, it was up to Caden's knees, and then up to Liam's knees. But the little bird was flapping along, and the little chipmunk had jumped up on Liam's shoulder. The best friend ball was rolling along, making a trail in the snow. And it was getting harder and harder and harder to see. The dad says, "Oh, I hope we get to the cabin soon." When the tough, brave little field mouse says, I see it. It's the cabin, let's go." They ran up onto the porch and opened the door, and inside they went. Well, Liam and Caden, because they're outdoor campers, they knew how to build a fire, and build a fire they did. Before you know it, it was warming up in the cabin. The flames danced around, and everybody gathered around and warmed their hands. The dad says, "Liam, Caden, I'm so proud of you. You remembered how to build a fire." And Liam says, "Of course, Dad, you take us camping all the time." And Caden says, "Yeah, like this summer when we were at the lake, and again when we were at the river. You let us build a fire, Dad, and we remembered." Well, the dad just grinned real big, and he reaches down and kisses Liam and Caden right on the forehead. "I'm so proud of you boys." Well, this fire was so good, everybody started taking off their jackets and their gloves, and they were gathered around the fire. Liam says, "Dad, how about some hot chocolate?" Caden says, "With marshmallows." And the dad says, "Well, only if I can put whipped cream on top." And everybody cheered. A warm, crackling fire with rich, chocolatey, hot chocolate with marshmallows and extra whipped cream like Dad always makes. So Dad went into the kitchen and he started the water, and he poured cups for everybody in the adventure crew. The dad says, "Uh-oh, we're out of marshmallows." And Caden said, "No, we're not. I always carry some in my backpack." And he reaches in and tosses Dad a bag of marshmallows, and he finishes filling the cup. And the adventure crew sat around the fire, watching it getting warmer, sipping their hot chocolate. And Liam and Caden started giggling because the tough, brave little field mouse had a whipped cream mustache. He says, "Hey, guys," and he wipes it off. And the dad says, "So, what are we going to do?" And Liam and Caden say, "Let's talk about all of our adventures we went on this summer." The dad said, "That sounds like a great idea." So Liam and Caden began telling the adventures that they all went on this summer. And it was a wonderful night. What would be the story that you would tell around the campfire in the rustic old cabin with the Cracker Barrel fireplace? I wonder. I love you guys. I love you so very much. And all of the adventures we went on this summer are right inside of my mind. And I sit and think about them when I'm by this old fire and just smile to myself. And I send you heart and soul messages, hugs and kisses. I love you.